Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, Vice President Leni Robredo posts the highest increase in the new Pulse Asia survey, but Bongbong Marcos maintains his lead. Can other candidates still catch up in the race to Malacañang less than a month before the elections? Pulse Asia President Ronald Holmes joins us live. And the Finance Department is pushing the Bureau of Internal Revenue to collect the unpaid taxes of the Marcos family. Former BIR Assistant Commissioner Edwin Abella also joins us in the program. Vice President Leni Robredo posts the biggest gain in the latest Pulse Asia survey. The presidential candidate rose by 9 percentage points. That's from 15% in February to 24% in March. Robredo's numbers increased the entire country, even in classes C, D, and E. But Bongbong Marcos remains as the survey frontrunner despite a 4-point dip in his numbers. Marcos fell from 60% in February to 56% last month. Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno ranks third with 8%, followed by Senators Manny Pacquiao at 6% and Ping Lacson at 2%. For the vice presidential race, Marcos's running mate, presidential daughter Sara Duterte, is still at the top with 56%. That's a 3 percentage point increase from the February survey. Senate President Tito Soto is far behind with 20% of likely voters, followed by Senator Kiko Pangilinan with 15%. About 6% of survey respondents prefer other vice presidential bets, while the rest are undecided, not voting anyone for the post or refusing to identify their choice. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Pulse Asia President Ronald Holmes. Professor Holmes, welcome back to The Source. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Good morning, Pinky. Maraming salamat din.
So let's dissect this. Bongbong Marcos down by 4 percentage points. Vice President Leni Robredo up by 9 percentage points. Isko Moreno Manny Pacquiao down by 2 percentage points. Let's start with former Senator Bongbong Marcos. From 60 to 56 percentage points, is a decrease of 4 percentage points significant?
Well, it's not statistically significant. It's within the survey-to-survey margin of error. It should be over 4 percentage points to make it significant. It should be close to 5 percentage points, actually. So his decline is basically marginal. He essentially keeps the level of support that he had in February.
When you say marginal, what does that mean? It
means that,
insignificant.
It can be, if you apply the margin of error from survey to survey, the decline is within that margin of error. So hindi siya ganun ka statistically significant.
Okay, so it's not that statistically significant. But let's look at the location. The biggest drop was in Mindanao for Bongbong Marcos at -6. Ganun din po sa Visayas, -5. Balance of Luzon, -4. What could have caused this drop?
Well, the probability that people are shifting in terms of their preference, although again, Pinky, just as a word of caution, and this is again on statistics, those are marginal, not statistically significant changes in those areas in the balance of Luzon. The only change we see that's beyond the margin of error from survey to survey is his support in Class D, which is from 61, it dropped to 56.
Class what, sir?
Class D as in dog.
Right.
It's the largest socioeconomic class. It constitutes about 3 out of 4 Filipinos. That's where the former senator has dropped in terms of voting support from 61 to 56.
But isn't it also in Class E that he dropped by -6?
That's within the margin of error still, yes.
All right.
So I mean, yeah.
Go ahead, Professor. Sige, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what we apply when we call something as a change. It should be beyond the margin of error from survey to survey, because if it's within the margin of error, that means essentially the changes can be explained by the normal sampling, the margins of error in a cross-sectional survey such as what we do in Pulse.
Okay, try po nating Tagalogin yung ating interview. But with this, kahit na po within the marginal error, meron pa rin po kasing sabihin natin drop sa Mindanao, Visayas, Luzon, but balance of Luzon rather, but as explained to you earlier, and even in the class CDE. But how can one still interpret this? Because if you just look at the table, sir, puro minus eh.
Pwedeng sabihin na medyo merong ilang sumusuporta sa dating Senador Bongbong Marcos na nag-iiba ang kanilang isip. Yung nga lang, hindi ganun kalakihan, kaya kung babatay natin sa survey, ito hindi lumalabis o lumalampas no sa sinasabi nating maaring pagkakamali ng survey, yung margin of error.
Okay, well understood, sir. Now let's talk about this. Because Bongbong Marcos still at 42 percentage points in C, D, and E markets. Ang ibig ho ba sabihin nito, ganun siya kalakas? And ang ibig ho ba sabihin nito na yung solid base niya is over 50%?
Yun ang lumalabas, Pinky, sa survey na pumalo siya sa mayoryang suporta simula doon sa mga nakaraang namin survey. Hindi pa siya bumababa sa mayorya simula noon at ito din yung lumalabas ng Marso. Kung ito yung mananatili, malalaman natin ngayong Abril. Pero yan, malinaw na meron pa rin suporta galing sa mayorya na pumupunta kay dating Senador Bongbong Marcos.
And is this unprecedented? May nakita na ho ba kayong presidential candidate in the past na ganito kataas yung numero?
Wala. Sa aming mga survey na sinasagawa simula noong 2000, walang isang kandidato na lumagpas sa mayorya yung suporta. Pinamataas na, kung aking matatandaan, yung limaong Pangulong Aquino, Noynoy Aquino, nung isang survey, pumapalo siya parang 44-45% ang suporta.
Yeah, but nothing over 50% except BBM.
Nothing over 50% across our surveys, at least. The pre-electoral surveys we conducted.
Okay, let's go to Vice President Leni Robredo here in NCR -1. Of course, pasok po ito sa tinatawag nga ng marginal error. But the balance of Luzon, that's +14. In Visayas, that's +9. In Mindanao, that's also +9. What would you say were the factors that led to this increase, and would you categorize that as significant?
Yung kay Vice President Robredo, malaki ang itinaas, no? Yung 9 percentage point ay lagpas sa margin of error from survey to survey. So masasabi natin na talagang makabuluhan yung paglaki ng suporta sa panig ni Vice Presidente Leni Robredo. Yung balance of Luzon, malaki rin yan. That's beyond the margin of error from 16 to 30. At makikita doon sa aming pinost sa aming website, makikita na malaki ang itinaas rin sa ilang lugar na malaki ang boto. Marami ang botante, ang ibig sabihin. Yung Region 4A, for example, which constitutes about 14% of the voting population. The Vice President is statistically tied with Bongbong Marcos in that particular region. So doon talaga medyo umalangkada yung kanyang suporta sa Region 4A na maaaring magpaliwanag kung bakit yung balance of Luzon, hindi lang Region 4A, maging Region 5, which is the Bicol region, which is her home region, generating more or less 9 out of 10 voters are supporting her there. So it's solidifying the support, at least in the region that she comes from. Sa Visayas, malakas pa rin si Vice Presidente Robredo sa Western Visayas. Yung Mindanao niya, bagamat malaking itanaas nito, it's beyond the margin of error. Medyo mas maliit yung suporta niya relative sa national, no? Because she's only getting 14% versus the national support, which is 24%. So it's an area which she needs to generate support if she would want to increase her pre-election preference and eventually increase and have a higher chance or eventually win the election. It's one area na talaga mahina, NCR and in Mindanao.
And yung sa classes, significant ho din ba ito? Class C plus 13, Class D an increase of plus 10, and then Class E an increase of plus 9.
Yung Class D talaga ang medyo umakyat. Yung Class E, maliit lang kasing grupo ito. Pinky, pag malaki itinaas niya. Pero yung Class D na 10 puntos ang inakyat niya, ito makabuluhan to. No? And it's a large socioeconomic class. So it determines essentially, if you look at the figures, kung ano yung proportion ng support sa Class D, yun ang halos lumalabas sa national kasi nga napakalaking grupo niya.
How big is this group, Professor? Class D?
It's about, well, based on our surveys, our estimation is that Class D will be about 75% of the total adult population or the voting population for that matter. Class E would be about 15%, and Class C, if you add AB, would be about 10%.
Okay, let's run that. Can you run that by me again? Class C is how big, sir?
It's about 10%. Yung
Class D?
yung D 75, yung E 15.
And then here is where some people are actually questioning, bakit daw walang A and B, sir?
Well, sa amin kasi, ang ginagawa ng sampling is random. No? Ibig sabihin, hindi ka pumipili ng respondent based on socioeconomic classes. We follow a multi-stage random sampling. Inahati ang Pilipinas sa iba't ibang lugar. So NCR, Balanced Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Pipili kami ng lungsod ng munisipalidad sa bawat lugar na yon. Pipili ng barangay sa bawat lugar na yon. Pipili ng sambahayan, household in each of those barangays. And then pipili ka randomly ng respondent dun sa household. So walang socioeconomic class. The socioeconomic class is determined only after the respondents are interviewed. So walang excluded rito. Pare-pareho may tsansa na maging bahagi ng survey. Yung nga lang, pagkatapos na ma-interview lahat, walang respondent that can qualify as belonging to Class AB.
The class are actually determined after the survey was done. Hindi po pinipili muna yung classes, tapos
Yeah. After random selection, Pinky. So hindi ka pumipili ng ito mukhang AB kakausapin. Otherwise, that violates yung probabilistic design, yung sampling.
Yun po kasi. Okay, so but is it also possible that there is no AB? And I understand the process now, sir, because it's also a very small number. So the probability of getting other classes would be higher because, as you mentioned, sa C, that's about 10%. D is about 75%, and then E is 15%.
That's possible. It's a small class. Maliit yung chance nila mapasama sa survey. And even as small as they are, there are places where AB will decide that we basically cannot in any way enter gated subdivisions, condominiums, where you have high security. Hindi ka man pwede pumasok doon eh. So, or when you touch base with them, some of them may even refuse to be interviewed. But the thing that we have to secure is that ang pagpili ng respondent, ng sasagot ay random. At hindi yan batay kung anong socioeconomic class ka.
Got it, sir. Let's look into this. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos drops -4, Isko -2, Manny -2. Again, there's a marginal error here. But is it oversimplifying it by saying that this -4 and -2 and -2, which totals -8, went to Leni Robredo? Ganun ba yun?
Halo-halo yung pag-shift nila. Maari kasing yung mga dati-dating sumusuporta, mas malaki yung sumusuporta galing kay sa isang kandidato na pupunta kay Vice President Leni. Hindi natin masasabi na lahat nitong ibinaba ng ibang kandidato ay lumipat kay Vice President Leni. Pwede kasing may mga lumipat kay Vice President Leni, pumunta kay Isko. Mas malaki yung lumipat galing kay Isko, papunta kay Manny Pacquiao. Tapos maraming. So it's a mix. It's hard to say because ang design ng survey kasi, Pinky, it's cross-sectional. Ibig sabihin, snapshot lang siya. Hindi siya parang yung panel na pare-parehong kinakausap mo. Makikita mo kung nagbago yung disposition nung kinausap mo.
Couple of last questions, Professor. Yung meron po kasing second choice and that is Isko Moreno at 23%, if I got my numbers right. What does that implicate?
That Ibig lang sabihin nun ay kung hindi tatakbo yung una nilang pinili, ang pinipili ng mga botante ay si Isko Moreno. At dahil siya ang pumapangatlo, medyo logical naman na yung mga bumoto sa mas maraming, doon sa mas malaki ang suporta kay Senador Marcos o kay Vice Presidente Robredo, ay lilipat. Mas marami ang potensyal na lilipat kay Manila Mayor Isko Moreno.
But it doesn't mean that the 50% of Bongbong Marcos will go to an Isko Moreno, or the numbers of Leni in total will go to Isko being the second choice. That doesn't, it's not automatic.
Yeah, that's not automatic. It only means that he gets most of those, a plurality of those who supported Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Leni Robredo.
Okay, here's the next question, sir. Ang tanong po ng iba ng mga supporters si Vice President Leni Robredo, can she catch up? Let's just talk historically during the 2016 elections. And of course, we had then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte on a trajectory. Ano po? Same month, same time in 2016, what was it like and what are the chances of Leni Robredo at 24% gaining much ground?
At in 2016, in the same survey we conducted in March, pumapangalawa na si dating Mayor Rodrigo Duterte na bilang kandidato sa pagkapangulo. Ibig sabihin nito ay malaki pang potensyal na magbago sa Abril dahil marami pa ang maaring kaganapan at mayroong mga kaganapan, Pinky, na talagang sa sobrang makabuluhan, maaring ito magdulot ng paglipat o pagbabago ng boto ng mga botanteng Pilipino.
Which is what? We don't know.
Which is, well, any significant event, whether this would be campaign activities that are conducted by any of the candidates that we have here, whether they will shift their messaging and the message will connect more with the public and will convince the public that, you know, this is the candidate that I'd rather go to rather than the candidate that I initially preferred.
Is it safe to say, sorry, Professor, no, last question. Is it safe to say that the message of unity of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte is working?
Well, it's safe to say that it has worked so far for his sake. It's on his favor, basically. But whether it will still continue to work, in campaigns, normally you repeat the same message, but you need to build up from your initial message. And that's one thing that we will see, whether there are new messages that will build up from prior messages for any of the candidates, including the frontrunner, Vice President Robredo, Isko Magoso, Manny Pacquiao, Ping Lacson, and everyone else.
All right. Thank you, Pulse Asia President, Professor Ronald Holmes.
Maraming salamat, Pinky. Good morning.
Good morning. And coming up, the Senate is looking at a possible Marcos estate tax controversy. A tax expert weighs in on the issue when we return. Please stay tuned.